that is. California, Mexico, Central America.
Really? That's it?
Apparently. I'm a little surprised he can't do Texas.
He has to move it. He has to get his capital in the Rio Grande area.
Gotcha. I've literally never seen a California form. Texas I've seen, Mexico I've seen, but never California. Interesting. I'll be watching that one with interest.
That's his fault. Yeah, their ideas are pretty nutty. That's the reason.
Yeah, so I've heard. I'll need to check what they are exactly, but maybe I'll just wait until he forms it, and then we can see.
Indeed. Alrighty. Cool.
Cool. Thank you.
And the other one, I was just waiting for that guy to leave, is you can have a look at Aitaya. They I think they must have actually done the religion change that they were doing.
Theravada?
Oh, no. No, they haven't quite made it yet.
Oh, they're trying to get Shinto. Yes, I've heard about that before. Which, is that really good idea? I think Theravada is actually one of the strongest religions in the game, because that minus 10% advisor cost is phenomenal. I remember spending an entire game trying to convert Bengal into Theravada, and I tried to get Tirhut Theravada, but I failed. And they're getting disciplined as well because of the low karma. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I would have said that Theravada was better. But okay.
It's their decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to go against that.
And I've started messaging you on Twitch instead of Discord, but you don't seem to have been noticing them.
You did?
Yeah, not through the chat.
Oh, if you're doing private message on Twitch, no, I can't see those at all.
Right. Okay. I mean, I can talk through. I can talk through the chat. It's just sometimes I want to say things. To you directly.
I think the way that we've been doing it, which is if it's okay for public, then the best way to do it is Twitch chat. If it's meant for just me, then Discord, I will notice it, but probably with a delay.
Okay, I'll do it that way then.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
But yeah, Twitch chat, I have no way that's easy to open it. There's too many windows.
Yeah, fair enough.
And also I get spammed like there is no tomorrow on Twitch PM, so...
Oh yeah, yes, I dread to think what your Twitch PMs are like. All right, I'll go back to my channel in case anyone wants to talk to me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, chat.
Cool. So, for those of you just joining us and who don't know what Poet's been doing, we've basically brought in a second observer, which is what Poet's been doing, because it is almost impossible to actually enforce things like rules when you're doing commentary at the same time. And I especially don't like telling players off when it's live on stream. It's not fair. So having a second player who works as the observer and can actually spend time watching what's going on, specifically for problems, then they can take the player aside and say, hey, do you know you're breaking this rule? Please fix it soon. And then we don't need to be quite so crazy with rule breaks after the stream, which is how we've had to deal with it in the past. So it's actually really helpful for that. And then the second part of their role is just to be talking to the players, getting an idea of what diplomacy is going on, what strategies and things that are happening, which we wouldn't necessarily otherwise be told. So he's able to like go around the players and say, what are you doing? Okay, you're doing this? That's cool. Okay, I'll tell Mordred, and then Mordred can tell chat. It's nice having that second layer of like management between me and the players, so that I can focus on the streaming, particularly when there are big wars going on, which need a lot of focus and a lot of attention because battles and things are happening. And then also just that second pair of eyes can pick stuff up, which I would miss, and can deal with conflicts way better than I can, because there's nothing I hate more than dealing with a conflict on camera. It's just so awkward. Since this is the only war, it's not exactly action-packed. Time to look at everyone's ideas choices. That is not a bad idea. Let's take a look. So, Britain. Actually, let's start with the top of the line. We're going to go with Tunis. Tunis has gone for trade, defensive, economic expansion. Expansion which they have been using to gobble up a little bit of Central Africa economic to make them a bit better to actually field troops, defensive for the morale and the defensiveness, particularly because they have a lot of desert. And then trade to start stealing some of the money from the Mamluks and possibly some of the money trying to come through Seville. Actually kind of curious. No, Tunis feeds into Seville. Where do you collect? Tunis collects in Tunis. I mean, that does make sense. So stealing money from Alexandria, stealing money through Katsina, and then collecting in Tunis, even though there's really not a lot of money here. So Tunis not really focusing trade. Okay. Next up, we have got Milan. Milan with defensive, innovative, so one of the few players that's actually taken innovative, economic, and then trade. Milan being the classic building tool nation, and they really will have built tool. They've actually got 481 development in this. 481. That's a fair amount, split between 40 provinces. 19 provinces and 19 non-overseas. Oh no, that's just the 19. So yeah, 19 provinces, 481. What's that average? That is an average development of 25 per province. Really? Yeah. Yeah, I can see that actually. Yep, definitely. So definitely the absolute building tool nation here. And they have economic ideas which will help with that because the capstone of economic is the development cost minus 20. Trade, they are in the Genoa trade node, which the Papal States in particular have been doing a big job trying to build up, although I think they probably collect here in Venice. I think that was the deal made between these two. Papal States would be responsible for Genoa, they would be responsible for Venice. And there is actually 35 ducats here. A lot of it probably local. Oh no, they are getting some money. Most of it from Ragusa. It doesn't look like Genoa's collecting anything from Ragusa. So any money that they can steal off of the Ottomans basically is going into their kitty. Next up we have got Great Britain having taken exploration, naval, expansion and quality. So Britain plus naval equals very, very difficult to invade, which is part of the reason why the attack on Britain earlier was just so impressive. Because, yeah, Britain's navies, especially as a pirate republic, are pretty much unstoppable. They've also taken exploration and expansion so that they can get a lot of colonies, although as we just saw, most of those colonies...
Hey, boss. Sorry to jump in again.
Hello.
Time-wise, when are we want to end? Same as what we've been 15, 20 minutes?
10 past.
Or 30? 10 past? Okay.
10 past.
Okay. I assume Poet's going to be the messenger for that?
Yeah, if you tell him, then he can tell the others.
Okay.
Thank you. What was the other one? Quality. Quality is going to be building up the British Navy even further and then also making their soldiers better because one problem that Britain has is not a huge manpower pool. So any way that they can get around that through just having better quality troops is good, particularly because then they can use the mobility from their naval superiority to basically strike anywhere. Next up, we have got Inca, the second of the three pirate republics. Inca have gone for economic, defensive, quality, and then expansion. Inca have the Inca reform, which is why they've been able to colonize without having any colonial ideas. Only just starting on expansion. Expansion. Expansion's the right one, because you get 2 colonists for that. They've taken defensive for the morale and also probably the defensiveness, seeing as a lot of this region is mountainous. And then quality to just make their armies a bit better. One surprise is, despite the fact that Inca is a pirate republic, they have basically no ships. Like, Inca's navy is very sad. It's just 20 boats. No heavies, 20 lights, that's it. So I do feel like Inca could probably be exerting a little bit more pressure if they had gone for a fleet, particularly when they were fighting against colonies. Meanwhile, we have a Texas. So Texas has now been formed by the Kamchandals, who has now taken over as the ruler of Texas. And the ideas for Texas are: negative religious tolerance no longer gives any penalties. Heretic and heathen provinces do not give us any penalty to religious unity. So their religious unity is going to be basically permanently at 100. They also take 10% less fire damage, which is very similar to Andalusia. And when they complete their ideas, then they also get a plus 15 morale of armies, which is on par, I believe, with Spain. So that is pretty nice. They get plus 1 yearly prestige, plus 10 fire damage, which is similar to that of England and I want to say the Netherlands. They also have goods produced plus 10%, so they're going to be making more money from that. They take 10% less attrition. They have a plus 15% movement speed, which is going to be quite nice, although movement speed... No, I guess that would go with infantry armies. I was thinking for a moment cavalry armies move faster, but I don't think they do. Then yearly army tradition decay -1, which means that they'll be able to maintain better armies. Britain also offering them a peace, an alliance. We'll see if they accept that in a moment. They have 15% cheaper stability, and then it caps off with a development cost of -10%. So they have a little bit of economy, pretty strong military, and no diplomatic stuff, except for the prestige, probably. So yeah, Texan ideas, pretty good. How does that go with their other stuff? Expansion ideas will allow them to continue colonizing in America. They got plutocratic ideas, which is a nice choice for the extra morale. They're actually going to have plus 25% morale just from ideas, let alone policies. That's another thing we should check, actually, is policies. And then also the trade. Economic ideas gives them a bit more of a boost in terms of finance and eventually the development. They'll have -30% development and also pretty flat territory, especially in the Texan Plain. And then offensive ideas for even more attack. Siege ability, which would be quite useful, extra discipline, and then just more land force limits. I'm curious, did they ally with Britain? They did not. They're still allied with Iran, but Britain was snubbed. I think the AI took the ideas. It's not a bad combination of ideas, to be fair. Right, the other thing I wanted to double check was policies. So Tunis has got armed neutrality, which is trade steering and merchants. Again, trade steering, I'm always a little ambivalent about this one. I don't think it's the strongest, although it's their only choice. So that's all they could have done. And then the extra merchant is always nice. Next up we have Milan, who've taken public welfare, which is unrest and stability. Interesting choice for them. I wouldn't have thought either of those would be a problem for them. They've taken merchants and trade steering as well. And then superior fortifications, fort maintenance down, fort defense up. Because they're going to be defending their mountains in the Alps, good choice. Particularly if they manage to keep good relations with Papal States. I just want to take a quick look over here to see if there's been any shift. Yes, there has. The naval coalition has managed to retake the Moluccas. We've got Japan sneaking in a couple of troops from the Sea of Celebes. And we do have the naval coalition moving around. They are engaging. 100 ships versus 48. 17 heavies against 100. I can't really see the Japanese winning here. The naval engagement of the coalition is 45 to 30. 3.7 morale to 3.2. They are capturing a bunch of ships. All of the heavies now being sunk. A couple of the transports being left. And yeah, Japan have seen their fleet rather whittled down. Philippines still have a fairly decent fleet just sitting over here, but the two are definitely not working very well together. Certainly not to the same level as the naval coalition, which have actually, again, I'm impressed by their level of organization. They are doing quite well coordinating everything between them. Britain, what policies have they taken? Britain have taken supply convoys, which is state maintenance, reduction, and liberty desire for subjects. It's their only choice. They also have global naval engagement plus 20, which is huge, and then the global settler increase and native uprising chance minus 50, which is also very, very good for colonization. That's a great choice. Then Inca don't have any policies yet. They are definitely a little bit behind when it comes to ideas. Do they actually have any available? Have they just not taken any? Because they finished 2 idea groups. Yeah, they could take the unrest and stability. Possibly not realizing that the first choice is now always free. That's possible. Naval uprising, so Germany around 1918. Yeah, something like that. Timmy, what do the Timurids have? The Timurids have gone for influence, economic, defensive, and trade. So before, I think I was giving Ajam a hard time about influence. That was apparently to do with the policies. So influence will give them slightly better diplomacy and also more vassal control. They have no vassals, so that's kind of irrelevant. Economic will allow them to have a bigger economy, and they do seem to be making money. They do have loans, but not a huge number. Defensive ideas, because they are up in the mountains, they're just going to be really, really, really obnoxious to conquer. And then trade ideas, probably trying to steal some of the money off of Hindustan and more likely the Mamelukes. Their policies, meanwhile, Vassal Obligation Act, income from vassals and contribution. Do you even have any? Oh yeah, you got Khiva and Baluchistan. Okay. I guess. And then they have local militias, which is monthly war exhaustion reduction, which is a really nice one. And then local militias for the fort defense reduction. Yeah, anything which reduces war exhaustion I found to actually be surprisingly powerful, because it keeps you in wars longer. Like one of the ways, for example, when we saw the fall of Britain, they were suffering so much is because war exhaustion was causing rebels. If you have less war exhaustion, you have less rebels, which means you have less problems at home. It actually works out really nicely, if you can keep that down. The French have got defensive ideas, so their morale is going to be truly obnoxious with just 35% bonus from that. Innovative ideas, meaning that they can keep up with technology exploration, getting them into the colonial game pretty early, although they've definitely not exploited that to their utmost. They've got one colonist who's currently not doing anything. They've expanded a tiny bit into Canada, but I think they've kind of forgotten that colonialism exists. Then they have economic, which they are still working on, which should boost up their economy. They're making a pretty healthy amount of money, though, so that's all good. Meanwhile, their policies, they've got global trade power and then settler chance. So the trade is good. The settling, less useful. And then fort defense and war exhaustion. Again, like I said before, it is a strong choice. Yuran have got quality, trade, and economics. So quantity and quality, no real surprises there. They are going for just a very, very strong army. A little bit surprised they haven't got offensive, possibly instead of quality. The naval ideas in particular for Euron, I think, will be slightly wasted. So I think that quality would have been better. But then again, quality economic, I think, is a really good policy, if I remember correctly. Yes, extra discipline, which is what they are most likely after. Meanwhile, the policy is settler chance and global trade power. Settler chance is irrelevant to them. They have no settlers. And then global trade power, I don't think they're that reliant on trade. Oh, no, I'm wrong. They do make quite a lot of money in Beijing. And they should have pretty much complete control over all the trade flowing into Beijing, which I do remember to be basically the rest of China feeds into Beijing. So, yes, they're going to be making a fair amount of money from that. And they have 99% dominance, meaning they collect it all. So actually, Yuran getting trade ideas could make them a bucket load of cash. Though with a country this size, I don't think cash is ever really going to be that big a problem. Next up, Gabs in Hamburg. Gabs in Hamburg has taken economic, exploration, trade, and naval. As we mentioned earlier, I think that exploration is a great idea for them because they're just getting these little colonial outposts all over the world, which they can then use to control trade. So all you need is one province, then you can station trade ships in those one provinces and then make use of having a large number of ships. So a little surprising they don't have maritime. I think I probably, if I were them, would have taken expansion and then maritime. Because expansion's an admin idea, maritime's a diplomatic, and then naval ideas for the military. Naval ideas because they are going to be very, very reliant on having a large navy. So probably strong allies at home, which they are keeping friendly, for example Prussia, by making themselves indispensable to the Prussians for saying, you send me all of your trade, I'll convert that into cold hard money and then pay you way more than you would ever have actually made from trade, which is a really, really good strategy for the smaller countries to do. And they seem to be playing to that pretty successfully so far. So very much expecting to see an enormous trade fleet coming out of Hamburg. They do indeed have 59 trade ships, which alone is more than their entire naval force limit. So yeah, no surprises there. In terms of policies, they've got trade efficiency and production efficiency. Production efficiency because they'll have some fairly high development, so making some decent money out of that. And then trade efficiency. That Beijing needs privateers, they do. If Iran and Japan weren't friendly, then the Philippines could definitely be going to privateer Beijing. And that might well be one way of keeping Iran friendly. Like, I know you're massive, but I can completely cripple your economy very easily if you don't stay sweet with us. That is also another thing which certain other countries could potentially pick on if they were so inclined. Probably. Also Portugal. Who's next?